Marketers have been sold basically on the wrong order of operations. We're told it goes permission, then proof, then scale, get the green light, run the pilot, then ask for more. And that sequence, I think, is why most of us are stuck. And so the institutions that are actually moving are running it in a different order.
Hey, Mallory. Did you hear that joke about the three theologians who walk into a bar together?
You mean the one where they order one drink and split it three ways because that's all they can afford on a community college budget?
That would be the one. And it's a perfect segue into our guest today, Devin Pergason. He is the AVP for Student Experience, Marketing, and Outreach at Forsyth Technical Community College, and one of the coolest people I met at AMA last year.
Oh, you're welcome for that, by the way.
Thank you.
We were on the rooftop in National Harbor, and I was like, wait a second, the two of you must meet. And how has this never happened before?
Yes, and the rest is history, and now we're besties.
And the year before at AMA in 2024, Devin Pergason was named the Emerging Marketer of the Year. So this is a true like up and comer in this industry. You know, as we think about our icons, I think, you know, it's not just people who are retiring or getting close to retirement age. Like there are incredible humans doing incredible work in this field that is helping move us forward in really meaningful ways. And when I think about the short list of who those people are, like Devin truly is at the top.
Absolutely. I am so excited for this conversation.
So let's dive right in.
Let's go. So three theologians walk into a bar. Just kidding.
Empress Jen Negroni.
Yes!
That's the answer.
Yes.
What was it? Wait, what was that drink that you called?
Oh my gosh,
like
it
Ruby's
was-
Red Slipper or something
Yes.
like that on the rooftop of
Dorothy's
Slipper. Yes.
Dorothy's
Oh my gosh.
Slipper. I love
it.
that so much.
Yes. When the three of us hang out at AMA,
Yeah.
you never know what'll happen.
You never know. You never know. Click your heels 3 times.
That's right.
And-
This is how this
Oh my
episode's going
goodness.
to go.
Yeah.
I'm already
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Communion. It's communion.
It is communion.
Oh, does that
that's
make
your
it-
seg. That's your seg Volt.
Oh, Devin, it is so great to have you on Higher Ed Icons. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
In researching you, I realized that you, Mallory, and I share a really interesting background. Mallory was a religious studies major in college. You went to divinity school, and I went to seminary twice.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, how does that happen? Number one,
Yeah.
that there's so many intersections among the three of us. We have a religious studies background. We're all fabulous. We're all in higher education.
Extremely good looking.
Yeah. Yeah. The list goes on.
It's endless. It's endless. We were all separated at birth. So here's my question. What does a degree from divinity school teach you that a marketing degree does not?
Oh, okay. So first of all, I had no idea about either of you. None. So sitting here realizing that the three of us are some, kind of weird div school marketing cabal that nobody warned me about is really cool. And, honestly, I feel like it tracks, Mallory's a Leo. I'm an Aries, so we've got, fire on fire happening right there. Here's the real answer. I'll say this. For a long time, I was a little embarrassed about the MDiv on my resume. Like,
Really?
you look at it next to a marketing job and you think, how did this guy end up here? So I used to kind of downplay it in interviews or like try to skip past it. Like, oh, it's a long story. Move on. And I treated it like something that I kind of needed to explain away, but I've stopped doing that because the more that I do this work, the more I realized that seminary really trained me for exactly what I do now. Think about it. Seminary teaches you how to sit with a giant pile of dense, complicated, sometimes contradictory source material in multiple languages from multiple centuries. Uh, and we're trying to figure out how to say the thing in a way that an actual human being in the third pew can understand it. Who's been at work all week. They're half listening. They can hear something. And so that's the whole job. So take something hard, make it land, make it move someone to do something different on Monday morning. That's a sermon, but I'd argue that that's also a landing page. That's also an admissions email. And so that's also a piece of crisis communications when your enrollment numbers are down and you've got to explain it to your board. So, that's one thing that I think is a nice juxtaposition. The other things that I didn't expect, I'll give you this example. When I started writing for our president, Dr. Janet Spriggs, I realized that she really speaks sermonically. Like she speaks missionally with passion, and there's a cadence and a rhythm to how she talks about students and economic mobility and the dignity of work. And if you ever sat through a good Sunday morning service, you kind of recognize that immediately. The repetition, the build, the landing on a single image that does all the work. So when I'm writing for her, I'm thinking, oh, I've done this before. This is a genre that I've trained in. I just didn't know that was the genre.
Yeah.
So I know that some folk of faith would bristle at me saying that marketing and preaching are cousins. I get it. Marketing is a little bit more commercial. But making an idea palatable to the masses, getting people to care about something bigger than themselves, I mean, that's really what the mechanics of our job is. So, yeah. One other thing that I think I had 3 points, because, it's a good sermon. 3 points.
The Trinity.
Yeah, the Trinity, yes. Seminary, I think, a good seminary teaches you to be skeptical of certainty. Like, I think the best pastors are the ones who are not sure of everything. They're the ones that can sit, with the hard answers and not really rush to resolve it. And I think that that's a marketing skill too, because in my mind, the marketers that I trust the most are the ones who can sit with I don't know if this is going to work and run an experiment anyway. They're the ones who I trust the most. And I think the ones that are too certain are usually about to be wrong in expensive ways.
Yeah. I love that phrase, skeptical of certainty. We're going to come back to that before this podcast ends. But I'm curious, when you were getting your MDiv, were you planning on going into a sort of faith-based career, or did you always know that you were eventually going into marketing, but you wanted to learn what you learned in seminary first?
So I knew for certain that I wanted to work at a university in higher education. And so whenever I first went to seminary, I was going because I wanted to get a PhD. I wanted to teach. This is, really fun stuff, but my concentration was historical theology. That is what I trained in. And so I wanted to be a professor. And then while I was in seminary, I started working at this small private college that needed someone who could do social media. And I was a photographer. I had I was young, and so I was the perfect person to be their social media person. So whenever I got that job, I started to really start to love it. I started to gain experience. And then I had a mentor who told me, he said, Devin, do you want to be an administrator that teaches a little or a teacher that administrates a little? And it was in that conversation that I decided I want to be an administrator that teaches a little. So I continued on. I graduated from seminary, but on the career side, I just took those skills and continued to work within higher education marketing, and this is where I am today.
As I think about a lot of the major disruptions to technology, to marketing communications, right? Having a healthy sense of skepticism is really important. And when I think about the institutions that have been early adopters of AI, but have done it in or maybe under the umbrella of being skeptical while
Yeah.
implementing it. Like, Devin, there's no other institution that comes to mind before Forsyth Tech where you work, right? The work that you have done under the leadership of Dr. Janet Spriggs has been incredibly impactful. I believe there's a stat out there that says AI referrals to your .edu site grew more than 800% in a single
Yeah.
year. And I happen to know through, our work together over the last couple years that you've saved essentially like 72 rewatches of the entire Office. Like,
Literally.
there's a fun
Yeah.
stat out there like that too. So look, you're like in the middle of it. And
Yeah.
I think this is what makes an icon. An icon doesn't need to be at retirement age. An icon needs to be in the middle of the work, doing the things that other people maybe are too afraid to do.
Yeah.
And you, I'm gonna put words in your mouth, but you saw AI and you like embraced it head on. You're writing about this stuff. You're leading an industry. And you're doing it without anybody maybe telling you to do it. Like, a lot of times people think that can only happen within the Ivy League institutions or within the tier 1 4-year institutions. You're doing it inside a community college, and that might surprise a lot of people, but how does this happen, and why should we not be surprised that you're able to find this much success?
Yeah, I think honestly, in community colleges, this doesn't typically happen, and I think that's the uncomfortable answer. I will say there's a small group of community college out there, and they are moving on this, and the rest of the sector, I think, is just trying to figure out whether to take it seriously or not. And I'm not saying that to throw shade at anybody, but I do think that the gap is real, and it's getting wider every quarter. And so I think that if you could look at the institutions that started experimenting with AI 18 months ago, they are now operating at a completely different level than the ones who are just now like standing up a committee to talk about it. But the reason I moved early it has nothing to do with me being some kind of visionary. I'm going to be clear about that. It has everything to do with the company I keep. And Mallory, you are exhibit A of the company I keep. So this is convenient. The two of us.
This was not a question that intended to lead to this either, for the record.
Yeah.
For the record.
The two of us are actually presenting on a topic very similar to this at Digital Collegium.
We are.
In October in Pittsburgh. And so I'm not going to give the session away because you all need to come and see
Spoilers.
it.
Spoilers are okay.
But the short version of our argument is that marketers have been sold basically on the wrong order of operations. It goes permission, then proof, then scale, get the green light, run the pilot, then ask for more. And that sequence, I think, is why most of us are stuck. And so the institutions that are actually moving are running it in a different order. So if you want to know what that order is, come see us in person. But the underlying, just to answer your question, I moved because I'd been very intentional, almost annoyingly intentional, about putting myself in rooms with people operating at a level that I'm not at yet. Like world-class marketers, people at 4-year institutions with budgets I could only dream about. People at graduate schools doing things that look completely outside of my world. People at private universities running campaigns. And I wanted to be in those rooms. And here's the reason. I'll go to a conference, and there might be one community college session on the schedule. But everyone from our sector is going to that one. That's where the community college folks, they kind of cluster. I want to go to the graduate enrollment session. Why? Because graduate schools and community colleges are recruiting the same person. We're going after the adult learner. We're trying to reach someone who has a job, kids, a mortgage. They're making real decisions about whether it's worth their time or their money, or they're Tuesday nights. And so graduate marketers have been figuring this out of how to talk to that person for a long, long time. And community colleges, we're kind of told that we're in this different category, but we're not, because the student is really the same person. They got the same anxieties, constraints, questions. Like I said, whether it's going to be worth it. So I steal shamelessly. I call it R&D, rip off and duplicate. I take what they're doing, I look at it in my context, and then I adapt it. And so if I can walk out of one of those sessions with just a crumb of what those folks are putting down, I bring it back to Forsyth Tech, and that's a real outcome for a real student. So the AI piece is the same logic. I started paying attention to AI marketing conversations, not because there was a community college AI conference. There really still isn't one. But I started paying attention because the marketers that I respect at other institutions were paying attention. And I figured if it was worth their time, then it's worth my time, because I read what they read. I follow who they follow. And so, I just started seeing the data on AI-driven search traffic shift. I moved because, I'd already been listening to this for 6 months. So I'll just say, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I make sure that I'm not the smartest person in the room. That's my whole strategy. That's probably one of the best things. Also, I will say I'm very, very lucky. The other piece is I have cover. Dr. Spriggs, she gave me room to move. Our cabinet gave me room to move. And so if I didn't have that, it would be really, really hard to capture, because, if you're just spending all of your energy getting permission instead of results, then, it's full circle. That brings us back to what we're going to unpack at Digital Collegium.
Yeah. Execution is such a big part of it. And you know what? I think that it's, I say this a lot, but it's like, it's having the discipline sometimes to execute. Like, you can have the big ideas. If you can't put them into practice,
right?
Like, who really cares?
Mm-hmm.
You said some really, really fascinating things that I've been writing down, Devin, and I want to follow up on two of them. The first is, I love this idea that you are basically chasing the ideas that other people will basically say they don't apply to us.
Yeah.
And usually what we hear when we talk to people who go to conferences and who don't show up for a lot of those sessions is, well, those sessions don't apply to me because my budget's like this and their budget's like this. Mm-hmm. And you said a second ago, the graduate schools that you attend conferences or sessions about have budgets you can only dream of.
Yeah.
The second thing that you said that was really fascinating to me is this idea about permission. Yeah. Where I think a lot of people get tripped up about, I don't have the money for it, mm-hmm. and I don't have the clearance for it. So I would love for you to unlock some ideas for people listening to this. Number one, if you don't have the budget to do everything, how do you decide what to do? Mm-hmm. And number two, seeking forgiveness rather than permission. Is that wired into your Enneagram, or is that a learned skill?
Wow. Two great questions. So first off, I would say that I'm going to answer your second question first. The forgiveness and not permission. I would say that is a little bit wired into who I am. And it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes it goes really well and then sometimes it doesn't. And there are some, failures that we could even talk about with that. But I think one of the most important parts is, if you don't have the budget, if you don't have sort of the resources that you're seeing other people have, I think what people do is they start at the wrong scale, right? So I think scale is really important. So when you are wanting to change something, redesign, add a tool, doing it at a small scale that is not cost prohibitive, doing it at a very, very manageable way, and getting quick wins, getting that proof very, very quickly is the key. Because then after you have that proof, you can get your permission, and then hopefully, based on the ROI or whatnot, then you can argue for that scalability and some of that extra budget or whatnot, or prove that this is the way that we should be moving. So,
But when you are looking at a fractional budget or all the ideas that you walk away with, what lessons do you have that you can share about making good choices about what to prioritize and how?
absolutely. I think a couple of things are you have to look at the staff that you have whenever it comes to prioritization, because a lot of times you'll see amazing things at conferences or new platforms or new things, and you're like, oh, I really want to do that. But then the people that would actually be implementing the thing, your tech team, your graphics team, your videographers, your photographers, if they are burnt out or they are stretched incredibly thin, this is just another thing on their plate, they're not going to have the passion for it to help it succeed in the way that you need. So I think one thing is looking at your staff capabilities and the actual people that are needed to make this happen. I feel like, not to get into another character kind of thing, but the strength finders, Clifton Strengths, have you all done that? Yeah. So my number one is learner. So I think that helps me because whenever I want to create something, I'm going to figure out how to do it myself, right? So if I want to take the pictures, or I want to do the video in a certain way, or if I want to create a WordPress plugin, I'm going to try to do it myself. And so I think that helps get things off the ground a little bit. I know that's not a lesson that people can just pick up and do. That's not natural to everyone, but I think that's also one thing that helps me to be able to implement and move forward with some things, is because I kind of get in and get the work done myself.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Devin, something that I have always been obsessed with about your role at Forsyth Tech is that it is a blend of both marketing and student care.
Yeah.
And in some articles that you have written, you have an argument around, kind of stop treating enrollment like this transactional endpoint, start treating it as the opening of the lifelong relationship. And that first enrollment conversation needs to function like the first chapter of what might be a multi-decade dialogue that is going to re-engage your learners at different inflection points, like their first job or career pivots, layoffs, et cetera, et cetera. I think that when we think about institutions who are serving the students who need affordable pathways the most, community colleges certainly being among that list, but also HBCUs, regional publics, etc. There is something in here around why continuing to evolve how we communicate becomes even more important for those types of institutions. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why student care is part of your role. Let's talk about why you hold these beliefs about enrollment as the starting point in the conversation. Where is the innovation in all of this, and how are you approaching equity?
Yeah. So I think this is a core marketing principle, right? It is more expensive to get a new customer than to keep one, right? And so this is sort of the framework behind that. And I know sometimes people bristle at referring to students as customers, but if you will, just allow me. What I started to see was we were doing a lot of great work marketing and getting the leads and filling the funnel and doing all of the work that marketers are supposed to do. But then I didn't see enrollment increasing. I didn't see completion increasing. I didn't see retention and persistence increasing. And so I started to realize that I can't make this someone else's problem. I can't keep doing my job well and then letting other quote unquote jobs or students fall through gaps in that way. Another, I think, core marketing principle that guides this in a way is that word of mouth marketing is still the most effective form of marketing that there is. I mean, if you want to buy something, you're going on Yelp, you're going on, or you want to go to a restaurant, you're going on Yelp, you're looking at people's reviews, you're reading Reddit, all of these kinds of things to see what do other real people think about this. And so I also took it from almost a hospitality lens of, if we are going to have students that talk well about us, then we have to treat them well. And so what does that look like? It looks like removing friction points. So making it where it's as easy as possible for students to start that first day of class, finish that semester, apply to graduation, meet with their tutors, meet with their professors, meet with their advisor, get their financial aid issues worked out. All of those things sort of compound and can really affect the student's experience. And so that is those are the two, I think, ethos that we really, really capitalized on when we started to integrate student care in with the marketing team. So now my team really, we spanned the entire student's life cycle in a way, to really ensure that we measure ourselves, our marketing, effectiveness, not just on enrollment numbers or lead gen or impressions, right? We also, benchmark ourselves based on the completion and the retention and the persistence. So those are really the heart of what the reason that we made the change, and the reason that we've integrated those pieces.
That's very, very cool. There's also, as I hear you talk about it, and you spoke a lot about basic principles of marketing, foundations of why you do what you do. I'd love for you to explore a little bit about the pastoral care side of things, because there's definitely a strain of empathy, a strain of trying to understand who these people are, how to serve them well, how to make them successful, which I've got to believe is impacted in part by the training you received in seminary. So talk to us about that. Where and how does pastoral care for the human being, come into your philosophy of marketing work?
Absolutely. That, honestly, Volt, I have not put two and two together there. This is the first time that I've seen this connection, but you're exactly right. Wow. Light bulb moment. Thank you, Bolt. Thank you. That's amazing. I love when three theologians go to a bar.
This is what happens.
This is it. This is why it happens. No, I always, one thing whenever what we were taught in seminary was head, heart, hands, right? You wanna affect people's heads, the way that they think, their heart. You want to touch their empathy. You want to empathize with them, and then their hands, urge them to action. And so I unknowingly, I think that I have built that in. I've baked that in to sort of the work that we're doing with that. That is just wow. What a revelation.
But that's really awesome, because I do think that there's something to that training that all of us received that really impacts and nuances the way that we work together, the way that we serve people who are under our purview. And I've got to believe that background is more positive than not, right?
Yeah.
That it has prepared us in special ways to be able to do the work that we do.
Yep.
I feel like you've got a clearer picture of what's coming than most of us do, because you are living that work right now. So, what does this all mean to you? Like, from your seat in an AVP role, how are you thinking about the next 6 to 12 months with agent optimization, and how search is changing, and certainly what this all means for students who are trying to make decisions, maybe even this summer, about where they're going to enroll?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really see the future of higher ed marketing especially like, administrators in higher ed marketing, almost like the role splitting, right? And so I would say like there's a top half and a bottom half, and the middle kind of it disappears. And the bottom half, I would say, is like the infrastructure. So, for instance, moving forward, the way that things are heading, an agent is going to be doing the work for the student, right? They're going to be comparing the different colleges on a student's behalf. And so I think, I'm not now going to be writing copy to charm the human into clicking, right? The agent, it doesn't care about a clever headline. It doesn't care about my brand voice. It wants data, right? So I'm making sure that the machine has clean, accurate, structured information about every program, what it costs to the penny, how long it takes, what are the wage outcomes, if financial aid can cover it, can you do it while working full time, childcare on site, all of these things. That's kind of plumbing. It's not really glamorous. So, there's no, as far as I know, there's no creative director award for great schema markup. So, and then I think the top half becomes trust. And so here's what the agent can't do. And this is the part that I think people miss. The agent can route a student to Forsyth Tech, and the agent can put us at the top of their short list, and they can start an application, but they cannot make the student believe us. And so when the agent says, Forsyth Tech is your best option, she's going to do what every single human being does. She's going to turn to the people in her life and ask, hey, have you heard of this place? If her pastor has heard of this place, if her cousin took a class with us, if we're mentioned by name, so the agent gets to do that infrastructure work, that middle work, and then the recommendation will land hopefully on what I think is prepared soil, So if nobody in her life has heard of us, then the agent's recommendation dies right there, She doesn't enroll, she closes the laptop, and might think, if this place was any good, then people would know about it. So, I think the VP role, it's two jobs stacked on each other. One's sort of the technical part, and then the other is, I would say, deeply and profoundly human. It's community trust and partner relationships. Knowing the local pastors and employers, and knowing the people who refer people. So, I think that is what happens. And so what gets squeezed out is sort of the middle, the clever campaign, and the billboard, the display ad, the view book. I think all that's going to matter less because the agent isn't really looking at those. And the human, they're going to ask their pastor anyway. I'm on this pastor kick because we're, everybody goes to church, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's where I sort of see the future of our world and our role moving toward. I know it kind of sounds scary and, a little less fun, but with agentic AI moving forward, I think this is something that we have to think about seriously.
I'm hearing you say that investing in brand awareness is becoming more important, because if I'm that student and I turn to my cousin or my neighbor or insert here person in my life, if they haven't heard about the institution I'm asking them about, right? Like in this scenario you're painting, that's what kills the conversation.
Exactly.
So investing in brand awareness seems like it must be a top priority for you as a result.
Absolutely. So it takes a little bit of the tactical work, I think, out of some of the digital marketing spaces, but I think that we're already seeing that move with zero-click search and things of that nature.
Devin, how are you investing in your brand awareness activities and how are you measuring it?
Yeah, so I think one thing about brand awareness is a lot of times the metrics are a little less satisfying because they're more vanity metrics. When you look at billboards or things of that nature, you're not seeing exactly who comes from that. But we know that you need several touches for people to make a decision, right? And so I think having yourself in places where where you want to be seen. So in high schools, in middle schools, in Walmart, I think of like we want to take our recruiters to Walmart break rooms and talk to them about like, hey, do you want to, you can level up, you can come and take classes with us. We want to go to all of these different places and be there. So I think one level of the brand awareness is making sure that you are in the places where you really want students to come.
Devin, I love this thread that we're pulling on in terms of brand awareness and the importance of investing more and more in brand awareness because you talk about trust. Mm-hmm. So the corollary to brand awareness to me has always been brand authenticity. So the difference or the delta between what we promise and what we say about who we are and how we actually believe and how we actually act and how people experience us. And I'm tying this a little bit to our foundations in faith. Yeah. So I would love for you to talk about how you have bridged the gap between what you say and how you all behave as an institution and how that impacts your brand.
Yeah, I think that I've heard this specifically about Gen Alpha a lot, that they really love authenticity. That authenticity is really important to them, and we see that in the way that they are consuming, the way that we need to video things now. They're like, oh, don't do it so polished. You do it from your phone. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be real. And I would say that I think every generation values authenticity, right? And they value people being authentic. And to take it from that religious standpoint, hypocrisy is really bad. It is talked really poorly about, and no one likes a hypocrite. And so if what you are saying is not what you are doing, that makes you a hypocrite. And so that is something that we at Forsyth Tech, I think that's one of the biggest reasons that we also decided to move everything into this structured student care lens, is because I was tired of promising something on the marketing side that you're going to get this experience and then it wasn't followed through with. And so I think being able to have that marketing team look at the entire lifetime of a student and make sure that what they are experiencing throughout their journey at our institution really keeps us honest with ourselves. It allows us to see where the friction points may arise and then change or pivot or add new support. And so that has been one of the things that I think has kept us honest and kept us authentic, because we want to make sure that what people are promised is what they're getting. Our tagline is a place of promise. And so we kind of make this promise to our community and to our region that we're there for them. And so that is really, really big in I think what we do as a marketing team, what we do as a student care team, what our president does as the president of one of America's top 25 community colleges.
Devin, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Higher Ed Icons. You are an icon in the making, and
thank you.
We're so lucky to be able to call you a friend, and also be able to have front row tickets to watching the incredible stuff that I know you are going to keep doing in this industry. We need more people like you.
Oh. Well, it was a complete honor. Thank you all.
Wow, that was absolutely fascinating. And I've got to admit, Mallory, that there was a part of me that really, really enjoyed just talking with someone else who shared our background, who studied religion, who studied faith, who trained basically to care for people's souls, and is now doing some incredible work in marketing. And the number of parallels that we draw between taking care of people's hearts and taking care of or helping shepherd them through this educational process. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah. His comment about the head, the heart, and the hand is, I think, the thing that's sticking with me the most from that conversation, because now that I understand that that was part of his background and training, I see how that plays out and how Devin approaches his job as a marketer and somebody who is also responsible for student care within FTCC. I think that's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I also thought it was a really remarkable moment when he said, "Oh, I never put that together before.
Yes.
I never realized." But yes, you're absolutely right. This is part of why I approach the work that I do the way that I do,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool because it basically means that spirit of care has been so ingrained into his approach that he doesn't need to separate that from, this is what I learned and this is how I now build my career and do my work as well as I can.
You know, I bet there's somebody out there who saw the graphic for this episode and said, Devin Pergason, how could someone so young be an icon, right? Like, this is an up-and-comer. Like, how does he fit the criteria of an icon? And I can guarantee if that person was a skeptic coming into this episode that they have changed their minds, because I'll tell you, a marker for me of an icon is not waiting for permission. And nobody's going to straight up tell you that the permission you're waiting for is never coming, right? You kind of have to realize that. And I think that as Devin was talking about how he kind of flipped the framework that the playbook so many of us operate from, right? Like, build the idea, get the consensus, secure the big budget, then go do the thing. And to listen to Devin say, like, no, like, stop asking for permission. The framework is proof first. Then you get permission and then you can scale it. But deliver proof back to your leadership in smaller, little test pilots. Then, go and change how leadership perceives risk, right? When you do that, suddenly you're earning permission to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you're operating at this scale. And nobody maybe even remembers a time before it existed. And that's how I have watched Devin do that for years now. And it's not about going rogue. It's about him understanding that the institution that he's operating within has to protect itself from risk by default. And so, great. He found a way to get into the fast lane, lower perceived risk, and produce evidence. And this is how he's had success with AI. And so I hope we were able to pull some of that out in our conversation, because I think he's showing us a new way of doing things.
Absolutely. And I also really loved what he had to say about seeking out the ideas that a lot of people shy away from because they will immediately dismiss it as, I can't afford it. Mm-hmm. Or it doesn't say community college on the session, so it's
Right.
not for me. And the fact is that he's built so much of his career learning from people who have budgets that far exceed his and who have more developed teams. And he is able to take what he learns, figure out what is going to be most applicable, apply it, ask for forgiveness later, and then continue to realize success. I think that he's such a warm, kind, effervescent person. Mm-hmm. And not underneath that, but I love the fact that in addition to being all of that, he's also like a badass. I just love
Hell yeah.
that, right?
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's amazing.
You know, we talked towards the end of our conversation with Devin about living the promise and how that is actually like the tagline at Forsyth Tech. There's this delta between the promise of our institutions, but how we actually act and how we show up and live that promise for our students. I mean, they can sniff that out, right? It's back to that point around inauthenticity.
Absolutely. And it is, I mean, the companion to building awareness about your brand is something that we've talked a lot about, not in my work at Carnegie and with my colleagues. And the idea is that if all you're doing is talking about yourself and making promises, that's not enough. That you actually have to activate the brand. You have to operationalize the brand. You have to have people living the brand because they believe it, because that's the experience that people remember. And I kind of gasped a little bit when Devin said hypocrisy, because I'm like, can we say that on a podcast? I think we can say badass on a podcast. I'm not sure we can say hypocrite on a podcast. But it's true. It is the difference between who we say we are as an institution, how we behave, and how people experience that promise or don't experience that promise is really the delta between a promise made and a promise kept. And I love the fact that Devin structured his entire team because he said, I was tired of making promises that the institution didn't keep. And so we restructured so that we could actually deliver on everything we said we would do. And that to me, okay, we said there were not going to be any tears here, but now we're going up a little bit. Because it's so important, you know, for us as institutions to be able to say, we're not going to get it perfect every time, but we are really doing everything that we can to deliver on everything that we say we are, and on everything we tell people they are going to get to experience and do here.
Yeah. I think so many of us are drawn to working in this space because of the mission of our institutions. That student care piece is core to why we stay in this industry.
Okay, so I have to ask you, because the three of us share this background that I think is really remarkable. We all came from a background of some sort of faith-based study. You in religious studies, Devin getting his MDiv, my going to seminary twice. So my question to you is, what is the most important thing that you carry with you from that education?
Wow. So my religious studies degree was very holistic in the sense that I walked away feeling like I had the luckiest degree out of anybody, because when you learn about religion, you learn about art and music and language. You learn how to question things, right? Because we weren't there 2,000 years ago. And so you learn to be skeptical. You really get this full liberal arts education. And I think, I learned how to take all sorts of different inputs, analyze them, be skeptical of them, and then come out with a thesis, right? Come out with some sort of insight. And that has served me really well, I think, as a marketer.
Yeah.
What about you?
My history is really, really interesting and a little windy. I started in a prep seminary at a Roman Catholic all-boys school with the idea that I might go into the priesthood. I then converted, became an evangelical, and spent 10 years at a Southern Baptist church and was getting a Master of Arts degree in bioethics at the seminary and prepped to go to law school. And at a certain point, I did leave the church, but I would like to believe that I never left the faith. And I would say in all the experience, what I've learned and hopefully what I carry with me is when all else fails, be humble and be kind.
Yeah. Oh. And you are both
Aw.
incredibly humble and kind. And you have like no business being humble, for the record, because you're like one of the most amazing people I know. But you are also one of the kindest people I know. And I say this to so many folks, but I have learned how to be a leader and a manager because of the kindness that I have learned from you as a leader and a manager.
Okay, now the tears really are coming down.
We need to have some sort of like sometimes you listen to things with like spoilers and they'll be like, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We need to have like the tear alert, right? The siren that goes off to warn people that the
Trigger warning, there
trigger
are
warnings.
tears,
Yeah,
period.
exactly.
Again, period.
Oh my gosh.
This was great. What a wonderful conversation with Devin, and a wonderful follow-up conversation with you. This is why we do what we do.
We're just having a great time connecting with each other and connecting with these people who are movers and shakers in the industry. And we are so excited that the podcast has continued to grow as quickly as it has. And we thank you, listeners, if you have spent those 10, 15 seconds subscribing and rating Higher Ed Icons wherever you're listening to this episode, or sharing it with a colleague or a friend. Thank you. Like, we wouldn't be doing this without somebody listening to us every other Tuesday.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for this episode, and we leave you with our parting thought. Mallory, what should we be?
Iconic.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Higher Ed Icons celebrates the pioneers, thought leaders, and changemakers who have shaped and continue to shape higher education marketing.
New episodes drop every other Tuesday. Subscribe and leave us a rating wherever you listen.
Higher Ed Icons is made possible by our founding sponsor, On Deck Marketing, keeping colleges and universities visible where students learn, walk, and scroll.
Learn more at ondeckmarketing.com. That's ondeckmktg.com to learn more.